Hi, Srimoidi. Am I audible? Hi, Shanmuga.
Hi, can you hear me?
Am I audible? Hi, Shanmuga.
Hi, can you hear me?
Am I audible? Hi, Shanmuga.
Hi, Shanmuga. Nice to see you.
Um,
Hi.
Srimoidi, Varbidi. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Oh, good. Uh, the attendees who have already joined, I welcome to this session. We will start at 5 p.m. sharp. Meanwhile, if you can also check if the YouTube live stream is working, it's already on, it's active. And as you know, as is the ritual that we follow here, the Google form for questions and comments has also been shared with you along with the meeting link. So if you have any questions or concerns through the session or after it, please share your concerns there. Thank you. We'll start the session at 5. That's all right. Shanmuga, I am deeply confused with WebEx as well. So it's good to know that somebody else is out there. It's so good to meet you virtually. Since we have some time, and Shanmuga, you're a panelist, so you should be able to speak as well, right? Uh, I was very curious about the work that you're doing on environmental humanities with DH. Maybe we can have a chat about it sometime. Hi, Rukmini. It's such a pleasure that the sessions are going smoothly for us as well. I'm glad that the technical team could fix it. I am very bad at technology, so I'll pass them your thanks. Yes. Srimati, the questions that Mayurakshi had about us, we will be able to share the link that she has. In fact, she herself can share it because everyone can comment in the chat box.
Yes, yes. But I just wanted you as a backup in
Yes,
case.
yes. I'll be there throughout. Don't worry. I'll be here. And in fact, our live stream is also on so that the link can also be pasted there in case somebody wants to participate.
Yeah.
Shanmuga, that is absolutely fine. In fact, I think it would be great if the two of us just talked sometime, because that's where my research is also going towards. I work on the Sundarbans region in Bengal, if you've heard of the region, and I am trying to go for a DH project within this. Hi, it's so good to meet you and see you. Are we audible?
Can you hear us, Mayurakshi?
Hi. Yeah, I lost you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can see you as well.
Okay, great. So, hi everyone. Hi, Tanisha.
So good to meet you.
Yeah. I'm just going to log in from another device just to be sure. I'll just, stay mute and my camera off on that device. But I'll just do that.
Yeah.
And back here.
Those of us who have just joined the room, hi, welcome to today's session. Before we go into it, please note that we go through all the forms and exercises that we circulate with you. And I couldn't help notice that a number of participants are just putting a period or just not actually responding while hitting submit. If you're interested in certification, attending the sessions and submitting the feedback form and the exercise are compulsory. So please, if you are one of the people who put in a period or a comma and hit submit, please go and resubmit your form with the full response. We go through every response. I promise. Thank you. We will start in another 10 minutes or so. The live stream is on. You have the form for the questions or doubts for this session, and our speakers already with us. We will get to begin the conversation, today's session, at 5 o'clock sharp. Thank you.
Tonisha,
Yes.
today's chair is Dr. Mona Lisa Basu, but she has joined through the panelist link, but she is unable to unmute herself or show herself. But I don't see her in the panelist list as well.
I have granted access. Panelists can unmute themselves now. If you just see.
Yeah, but she's not here. Should I ask her to join again?
Yes, perhaps that will help.
Yeah.
Hi, so I've logged in from another device. I'll just stay logged in from there just in case this So I have WebEx installed in one of my computers and not installed in the other. So just back up.
Srimoidi, is Mona Lisa able to join us?
She's trying. If she won't be, she'll be calling. So she logged out and she's logging in again. That's what she said. So, Nisha, Mona Lisa actually is also registered as a participant. I suppose she's trying to do it from the participants link. That is why she's having the trouble. I have mailed or forwarded rather my panelist mail to her. Will that be good enough?
Yes, absolutely.
So hopefully this time it will work, or otherwise then I'll again ask you to do the same.
Yes, sure. As long as she's putting in the passcodes, it shouldn't be a
Yes,
problem.
because earlier on she said that they are not showing passwords. So I guess she was entering through the attendee link.
All right, we'll start in the next 5 minutes or so.
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely.
Mayurakshi, as a panelist, you will be able to share any link that you wish to with the participants at any given minute. If you want us to broadcast it in the live stream also, we'll be able to do that.
Okay. I'm not sure. So participants who signed up for the FDP would be joining as attendees on WebEx, right?
Yes.
Yes.
But some of them have been facing connectivity issues because WebEx is such a heavy bandwidth platform. So they are also following it in the live stream. So what we typically do is we share the links with them by email or through the chat in both places.
That's okay. So I'll just share the link in the chat window, which I'm just going to find out where. Or I can just send you the link in an email.
Sure.
I
Yes.
also have it on the slide, so I'll just project the slide so participants can look up the information on the slide, and
I
we can
think that
also
would
live
work.
stream it. It's just that people who are watching live stream will not be able to participate.
Okay, Mona Lisa is still having problem.
In
If
the
you could
worst
just,
case scenario, can somebody replace her then
yes, we'll
so
figure
that
that
we
out.
don't
I'll
waste time?
just request you one more time to just send her the panelists' mail
I'll do
from
that.
your end. Maybe, I don't know.
I'll do that right away.
Uh-huh. We have guesswork here, but anything to.
It has been sent to her. It has all the passcodes now. There's no other restriction or domain. Excuse me.
All right. As the chair continues to try, I think we should begin, Tanisha, and we'll figure it out as we move forward. Am I audible?
Sure.
Should I start? Yeah.
Yes, please do.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so once again, I extend a very warm welcome to everyone who has joined us today on the third session of the ongoing online international faculty development program on digital humanities, or rather an introduction to digital humanities. This is the first collaborative activity between the two institutions of Scottish Church College, Kolkata, and IIT Jodhpur. I, once again, I'm introducing myself. I am Dr. Srimul Thakurta, Department of History, Scottish Church College, and I am one of the coordinators of this FDP, along with Dr. Varvi Roy, Department of Philosophy, Scottish Church College, and Dr. Tunisha Green, Assistant Professor, School of Liberal Arts, IIT Jodhpur. Thank you once again for everyone who has joined us on WebEx and who are watching us on YouTube. Today's session will be hopefully chaired by Dr. Monalisa Basu, Associate Professor of Department of Political Science, Scottish Church College. And today we have with us as our speaker Dr. Mayurakshi Chaudhuri of Flame University, Pune. Before I carry on with today's session, let me just again lay down some of the ground rules that will help us to conduct today's session in a smooth manner, because as we have been saying that we are dealing with quite a huge number of participants. So once again, as Tonisha has been saying, you can ask questions throughout the lecture, but we will be accepting questions only through the Google form, which has already been mailed to you. It is the same mail which contains your meeting link in the WebEx as well as the YouTube link. And we will only be catering to those questions that we receive in the Google form. So kindly, mind that. And if you can just, leave the WebEx chat clean, that will be of great convenience to us. At the end of today's session, we will again share a feedback link in the WebEx chat box. It will be counted as your attendance, of course. Apart from that, you have been noticing that we have been sharing the videos of the sessions, and we have been giving you an exercise against that as well. This is because people are still finding it a bit difficult to join us on WebEx, so they're joining us on YouTube. So it is for their convenience and for our convenience as well, by which we can decide how to issue the certificates that we're doing this exercise. So we request all of you to kindly follow the links which will be shared, and to do the needful as and when required. So let's begin with today's session. And I think our chair is still having issues in joining. No problem. I can fill in her place while she's trying to join. And once she does, I think we can take it from there. But before that, we have a small formality of introducing our speaker of the day, and I'll proceed with that. So again, formally, a welcome to all to the third session of the ongoing online FTP. We had two excellent introductory sessions, I must say. The inaugural one, which was taken by Mr. Shamubhutu Roy, he, kind of brilliantly laid down the bare minimums, one might say, of what we may comprehend or understand as digital humanities as a whole. This was followed by another excellent session by Dr. Tonisha Green herself, and who again brilliantly guided us through the very layered and complex, and if I'm allowed to use these phrases and terms, nooks and corners of digital humanities as a discipline in itself in academia. And I think what we have today is the perfect step forward, where we are going to discuss digital humanities as a pedagogy. So, as a faculty member who is very keen to take DH to my students and introduce DH to my students, this is a very, very attractive session, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I'm truly honored and respect, and I feel very excited as well to once again, in fact, welcome Dr. Mayurakshi Chaudhuri on this platform. Uh, for one, because it was Dr. Chaudhuri who actually introduced digital humanities to Scottish Church College back in the year 2021, where we met again online. And her delivery was so brilliant and so inspiring that, we, the faculty members, as well as the students, got really attracted to the very concept of DH. And that actually led Scottish Church in trying to come up with a collaboration with the DH department of IIT Jodhpur that resulted in the MOU between the two institutions. And in fact, this particular MTP is a kind of a byproduct of that. So I think we owe Dr. Chaudhuri a big thank you on behalf of us coordinators, because it was her who actually got the ball rolling, in fact. So thank you once again. But more so because me and Mayurakshi go back a long time, almost more than 25 years, I would say. And, it is always exciting to meet on such platforms where, we can look back at such a rich past that we have, and can still enjoy the kind of present that we are having right now. So I feel that we are both blessed in that context. So before I get more emotional, I would say, let me just formally introduce you to our participants of the day. Dr. Mayurakshi Chaudhuri is Associate Professor of Sociology and Digital Humanities and also the Sociology Area Chair in the Department of Social Sciences, Flame School of Liberal Education at Flame University, Pune. She is the founding faculty of Digital Humanities program, both at the PG and the PhD level at IIT Jodhpur. And she currently serves as a member of the Board of Studies in Digital Humanities for Savitribai Phule, Pune University, India. Dr. Chaudhuri's research areas include migrations and mobilities, gender studies, historical sociology, technology and society, digital humanities, and qualitative research methods. She is the recipient of international and national fellowships, including an Indo-Swiss grant jointly funded by the Swiss National Science Foundation, the Ministry of Earth Sciences, and the Indian Council of Social Science Research, a GC's Eurolab Fellowship from the Leibniz Institute for Social Sciences, Germany, a German Academic Exchange Service Fellowship, and the Government of India National Merit Scholarship. Her research has been published significantly with top-tier journals such as Sex Roles, published by Springer, Transfers, published by Berghahn Books, Oxford, and Applied Mobilities, published by Taylor and Francis. Dr. Chaudhuri has completed 2 NPTEL teaching projects as part of the Government of India's Ministry of Human Resource Development's Direct to Home initiative, which includes gender and society and images, imaginations, and cultures. Dr. Chaudhuri's recent research projects focus on emerging areas of technology, gender and mobility, and images in digital cultures. So I think, Mayurakshi, you can take the center stage now. And would you be showing a slide?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Then the
Okay.
stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Srimoy. Before I proceed with sharing my screen and sharing my presentation, huge thank you to IIT Jodhpur and to Scottish Church College for making this possible. To Srimoy, as you mentioned, we go back like more than 25 years. And to the organizers for bringing to the platform, a very, very important emerging set of dialogues that India is currently going through. So without further ado, I would like to share my screen and start with my presentation. I know Srimoy has set very high standards for me, and I hope to, stick true to that. Trying my best. So just let me know if you can view my screen. Wait. Is my PowerPoint visible?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Mayurakshi.
Great. Okay. So the title of my talk today is around the idea of pedagogy and digital humanities. And I asked this question, I borrowed this question, in fact, I'll tell you from where. Where is the pedagogy? Looking at the contours of digital humanities curricula globally and mostly from Indian contexts. So my talk here for the next hour or so would be centering first on some of the key theoretical and methodological premises for imagining principles of digital humanities pedagogy. Now, these are very contextual. These are very dependent on the type of programs that we are planning to launch or we are planning to conceptualize. So it's very, very contextual. The second part of my talk today would be looking at some of these digital humanities courses and programs globally and in Indian classrooms, where I'll give you a very, very bird's eye view of what's happening globally, And then bring you more closer to home, looking at DH in Indian classrooms, and some of the future upcoming sort of digital humanities programs in India. And the third part of the talk, which I'm looking forward to, is I hope would be very interactive, where I would like to learn from you your thoughts on building a digital humanities curriculum. So staying with the idea of theoretical and methodological premises, this is a quite simple, linear sort of a progression of digital humanities that we can imagine as a global timeline. You may call it an utopian sort of an idea of a utopian linear diagram of evolution of digital humanities, as we can see. And it gets a little more complicated later on. But if we can imagine a starting point of digital humanities, given the history of Thomas Busa, his collaboration with IBM, etc. So starting with using text as data to going on to using images, processes of digitization, using sound reproduction, building musical database, to use of objects and numbers, machine classification, etc., to more multimedia and more artificial intelligence, AR, VR, XR sort of idea around digital humanities. Now, this progression we see in the process of scholarly research, in the process of peer-reviewed publications, in the process of producing books and journal articles. But what we are looking at today here is, in the middle of all of these, where is the pedagogy? Are we training the current generation of students, the upcoming generation of students? Are we equipping them? Are we giving them the skill sets to actually achieve this and deliver according to the principles that that DH is being laid on? So this is a question that Stephen Breyer raises in 2012, that is almost more than a decade old. Where is the pedagogy, the role of teaching and learning in the digital humanities? And this is a book chapter in Debates in the Digital Humanities by Matthew Gold, where Breyer looks at this question of pedagogy, that it still remains central to the establishment of digital humanities as a discipline. So what Breyer notes here is that, and mind you, this is 2012 we are talking about. What Breyer notes in this chapter is that while the word research garners 81 hits in total, 9 of every 10 articles that the DHQ, the Digital Humanities Quarterly, has published, teaching and learning each total at least 40 hits and 26 when paired, while pedagogy appears a mere 9 times, averaging about 1 of every 10 articles. So Breyer discusses the growth of digital humanities around focusing and perhaps an overemphasis on scholarly research, on peer-reviewed articles, and books and other publications. We recently conducted, a similar search early last year, and we did see that the numbers have risen, of course, not surprisingly. But interestingly, while the numbers have risen probably around more than 600 hits for research and around 300 hits for teaching learning, the numbers around teaching learning and for pedagogy remains abysmally low when it compares to research in digital humanities. So while we are talking about an increase in numbers, we are really not talking about reducing the gap between these numbers. And so this perhaps necessitates a conversation around understanding the epistemological basis, the epistemological inquiry in the foundations of digital humanities, how we are conceptualizing digital humanities to bring it to the classrooms, to bring it to our students. And so when we talk of an epistemological foundation, when we're talking about knowledge production in that way, how we are conceptualizing what is knowledge, how we are conceptualizing what is science, and how we come to know of things. This is a decision we have to take, particularly when we are at the curriculum building stage, whether we want to call it, for example, a Master of Arts in Digital Humanities or a Master of Science in Digital Humanities. So where is this differentiation going to come from? How are we going to decide what sort of a degree we are going to offer to the students? I'm talking mostly at the postgraduate level, because that's where I have been working for the past few years. I do not think we have an undergraduate curriculum or a program in India currently exactly on digital humanities. But so these epistemological questions come in at that juncture of deciding what sort of a degree program are we looking at. So as we look at science here as knowledge production, look at science as a body of knowledge that is systematically arranged, we look at knowledge as the purpose and the system as the methods. In other words, in order to define this epistemological premise of building a digital humanities curriculum, then we have to look at, if we take knowledge and systems are these two pillars, in other words, if we call theoretical premises and methodological inquiry. So this is also taking us back to the 1959 very, very popular, very, very famous quote by C.P. Snow from Two Cultures and the Scientific Revolution, is that the intellectual life of the whole Western society is increasingly being split into two polar groups: literary intellectuals at one pole, at the other scientists, and as the most representative, the physical scientists. Between the two, a gulf of incomprehension. So what C.P. Snow in 1959 is venting is this gulf between the humanities and the natural scientists, the gulf between literary intellectuals and natural scientists. And it brings us to the question that when we use a term such as digital humanities, how much of this difference is actually natural and how much of it is actually assumed. So he actually talks, like Snow actually talks about this experiment, this public experiment, that if you walk into a public gathering and ask two different sets of questions, so one set of questions around, say, what is the second law of thermodynamics, and questions along those lines, and another set of questions along lines of, have you read any work by Shakespeare? What he says is, oftentimes in a public gathering, you will not have a public, being able to answer to both equally. So you would either be able to answer what is the second law of thermodynamics, or you would be, interested in taking a part in the conversation or works by Shakespeare. So he poses these questions that why is it that, we assume that there is a difference between, digital technology and the humanities. So are the digital technology and the humanities different and contradictory, or, we sort of assume that they are polar ends? So what is digital about the humanities? And I am not going to go into deeper details, because I know Shamu has done a wonderful job, Nonisha has done a wonderful job in the last 2 weeks. But just for the sake of building a curriculum, just for the sake of looking at pedagogy questions of, how can we attain an understanding of bringing digital humanities together? It's not an addendum. So the digital is not an addendum to the humanities. How can we, sort of transcend that boundary and, bring it to the classroom? So this is the map of digital humanities proposed by Professor Anna Liu, who is distinguished professor in the Department of English, UC Santa Barbara. And interestingly, as you can see, the growth of digital humanities from humanities computing through application of text encoding, text analysis, topic modeling, social network analysis, mapping, etc., actually later on gets linked with, a multiple, a variety of different types of disciplines, such as history of book or book history, new media studies, performance theory, and new points of humanities disciplines like sociology, anthropology, political science, and non-humanities disciplines such as computer science, engineering, and so on and so forth. Now, I'm going to borrow from how Liu actually arrives at this map, what he calls version 2.3 of the map of digital humanities. That what starts off with, digitization, digital photography, scanning, OCR, corpus creation of collation, curation, to archival research, to linked data, to text encoding, to computationally assisted provenance, etc. Then becomes, gives rise to these disciplinary areas and the disciplines that digital humanities actually shares boundaries with. And then he actually, so this one is based mostly on foundational work of digitization and collection, while the next step is mostly based on analysis work such as interpretation, critiquing, etc. And so Liu actually, identifies these groups of disciplines in and around digital humanities, that and also cites some of these key works that you can see on the screen, that has contributed to the growth and sort of sustenance of digital humanities, along and across these disciplines. Long story short, when we think of designing a curriculum in digital humanities and try to position it within a department, or within a school, where do we start? What is the vantage point that we are using to actually offer, a curriculum of digital humanities from that respect? So I'm going to come back to this linear sort of a diagram, and now I'm just going to go and problematize these two pillars of pedagogy. That is, one is looking at theoretical premises in and around digital humanities, and looking around methods and methodological premises for digital humanities. Because essentially, whatever courses we design, whatever courses we offer to students as part of the DH curriculum would, in a way, speak to one of these two pillars. So whether we talk of theory or whether we talk of methods, we have a sense from existing digital curricula around the world, and from the ones that are coming up, and future DH curricula, is that most of these courses, most of these curricula would talk about three facets in some way or the other. One is digital scholarship. So, whether we talk of archives, whether we talk of, digital archives or digitizing, whether we talk of OCR, etc., digital scholarship is one, big chunk of that area where we need to look into, to fish out or to propose courses in and around that pillar. The second area is the idea of digital spaces, and this is very, very close to my areas of work, looking at questions of ethics, privacy, identities, inequalities, being negotiated in digital spaces or being reified, reconfirmed, sort of stereotyped on digital spaces. And I'm going to walk you through a couple of examples to show how these actually pan out for courses in digital humanities. And the third sort of premise, whether we are talking about theory or methods for a digital humanities curriculum, revolve around the idea of computational thinking, but with a critical hat on. So to have the understanding of computational thinking is one thing, and to use it to the advantage of a DH scholar is something else. So if we look at this evolution of digital scholarship, the idea of digital scholarship, throughout history, what started with conventional computation, going back to the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, when computers were starting to be ubiquitous, household necessity, first possibly in the West and then later on rest of the world. To the growth of social networks, if you're looking across the horizontal axis, to the growth of social networks, and to more distributed computation if you go along the y-axis. But really, where we are currently is an age of digital scholarship. That whatever we choose to do, whatever we are doing in terms of scholarly work, sort of intersects in some form with the idea of the digital. And so, it's not just enough to say that, we are in an age beyond distributed computation, beyond conventional computation, but we are also in an age of digital scholarship, where while we celebrate technological advancements, we also look at these, nuances on digital platforms, which, nuances around identities, inequalities on digital platforms, such as debates in social networks and social media on privacy, identities, inequalities, such as those on gender, violence, sexuality, masculinities, consent, etc. So what we are actually looking at is a very complex picture of digital scholarship. And our duty as educators, our duty as instructors for a DH class, for a DH curriculum, would be to bring in this complexity within the curriculum, so as to give a holistic view of what a digital humanities curriculum would be able to achieve. So for digital scholarship, we are also talking about this growth, this advancement towards automation, machine learning. Again, a celebration of technology, but of course it brings with it challenges, it brings with it critical questions of humanities, of social sciences, that needs constant attention. So I'm going to come to some of these examples in a minute once I talk about the digital spaces also. So when we talk of digital spaces, I know Tanushree did a beautiful job last week talking about, the ideas of space and, the digital academic. So when we talk of digital space, so space in humanities and social science, as you may know, is a very fluid concept, and it's an idea that's constantly under construction. It's not a given. And space has had its own history of starting from philosophy to physics to mathematics to sociology, other social sciences. So space has, as a concept, has traveled, this very meandering, long history. And now we are in an age where we talk about digital spaces. And so when we say digital space, what are we actually meaning? Are we talking about replicating physical space? That is, a given physical space is being translated into a digital space, based on vision, based on memory, or are we sort of programming, digital spaces that is completely disconnected from our understanding of physical spaces? So herein comes in the importance of programming. And whether we want to introduce programming to the students of digital humanities is a call that we have to take as a group while building a curriculum, or the question to ask is to what extent does a student need to know programming in order to market herself or himself as a DHer? So to program means to specify an exact sequence of commands for execution in a machine, and in its exactness, it opposes the abstract approach of design at first glance. So the moment we are saying that we are programming digital spaces, we are sort of deviating, we're sort of detaching ourselves from the idea that, space is socially constructed. And so here, the idea of computational thinking takes over for various reasons. So computational thinking, very, very simply put, is deploying principles of computer programming to problem spaces. And these problem spaces can be of any and every nature that we can see around us. And mostly in the context of building a DH course or building a DH curriculum, algorithms play a huge role. And algorithms in the sense of structured sequence of steps to create an output from an input. So when it comes to questions of building algorithms or knowing how to build algorithms, computational thinking actually gives us two pillars to think about. One is technique, and technique is the technical knowledge or the know-how of doing the task. So in other words, am I enabling the student to be able to write an algorithm? So does the student have the know-how, the technical knowledge to write an algorithm? Is the technical skill set. But importantly, and perhaps more importantly, is the phronesis part, which is the practical wisdom. And this brings to the question that the student, or I may be enabling the student to write an algorithm with technical skill set, but should I be writing this algorithm in the first place? Is the question that the student should be able to ask herself or himself. And that is the practical wisdom, that is the phronesis part that computational thinking brings with it. We oftentimes miss the phronesis, we oftentimes lay more emphasis on the techne part, on the technical knowledge part, and therefore, when phronesis gets ignored, when the practical wisdom gets ignored, we have situations, we have examples that I'm going to show you now. I'm sure you must have followed, this was in Times earlier this year, and this is this news report is based on an artist who created AI-generated photographs of pictures of stereotypes of Indian men and women, and it created a lot of brouhaha across the country, that the artist created stereotypical images of men and women, regional stereotypical images of men and women in India. To his defense, the artist is saying that he did not create the stereotypes. He just enabled AI to create these stereotypes. He just enabled AI to generate these photographs, which emerged as stereotypes, because algorithms learn from library of millions of images. And it is us who are actually uploading these images. It's us who are actually giving this data, that the data is already very stereotyped. The data is already very biased. And what you see is a reflection of that data. And so, this is a very interesting case study to actually discuss, is that, generating an AI-based photo or an image or a movie is not enough unless you go behind the scene and do this critical sort of an inquiry. If you're interested to read along these lines, this is a great, great book by Safia Noble, Algorithms of Oppression, where Safia Noble actually examines negative biases against women of color, mostly in the United States, and they're embedded in search engine results and algorithms. And so she talks about the idea of data discrimination as a real social problem. And so you see, when we talk of the techne, we cannot avoid talking about phronesis. And so Algorithms of Oppression is actually built on an older UN Women project, the UN Women project on the autocomplete truth. Again, around search engines. I'm going to try playing it here. I'm not sure if it's going to play. If it doesn't, I'm just going to go back and share my screen here. Can you all see my screen with the video? Yes?
Not yet. Yes, now it is coming slowly. Yes.
Amelia Earhart and her epic solo flight from America to Ireland.
So this is the Women Should campaign by UN Women that Safia Noble actually builds on. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint here. Okay. So staying on the concept of stereotypes and AI and technique and phronesis, this is again representation in AI, and this is a very old article, but it's conventionally used in classrooms to actually show how stereotypical representation through AI actually generate. So this is asking the computer, asking the AI, if man is to king, woman is to queen, Paris is to France, Tokyo is to Japan, man is to computer programmer, what woman is to. And while we expect that the AI should return with an answer of woman is to computer programmer, we are perhaps not surprised that the AI returns with an answer that if the man is a computer programmer, the woman better be a homemaker. Right, so, and this is actually taken from this article. You can take a look at it later on. But, these are issues that, we should factor in building our courses, that it's never just technology that we are planning to teach the students, that it's never introduction to programming or introduction to data structures that we are planning to teach students of digital humanities, but there is a complicated story behind programming. There is a complicated story behind understanding data structures. And that is something we need to bring into the classrooms as we design these courses. So when we think of role of computational thinking and its contribution to courses in digital humanities, we are also looking at these significant relationships of power that we would like to bring this to the students' understandings. These collective illusions that are constructing identities and inequalities across digital spaces, that we should not end up automating inequality in digital spaces. And this also takes me back to 1966, when Rabin actually founded Computers and the Humanities. And he was asked about, why such a title for a journal. This is one of my all-time favorite quotes, is that we need never be hypnotized by the computer's capacity to count into thinking that once we have counted things, we understand them. And this is what I think one of the underlying, foundations, underlying pillars of, course in digital humanities as we bring to the classroom can speak to. So, given this backdrop, given a very very short, brief overview of how what sort of a theoretical premise we can look at, this boundary transgression, boundaries merging, disciplinary boundaries rupturing, these critical inquiries that go behind the scene, creating algorithms, etc. So all of that. Now, how do we bring them to the classroom in doing digital humanities? In other words, how do we address the methodologies around digital humanities through our courses? This is another interesting mapping of digital humanities through the methods lens that the EADH actually offers. And they call it methodological commons. And as you can see in the bottom part of the diagram, you have conventional disciplines of philosophy, computer science, linguistics, sociology, history, literature, and the arts. And then also it gets a little complicated, in terms of the type of methods, the type of analysis that they engage in, being informed by these sort of conventional disciplinary orientation, disciplinary methods, into what can grow out from them. So when we talk of digital humanities, when we talk of methods in and around digital humanities, oftentimes we sort of get trapped in the online, and we get trapped either with the regarding use of technologies, or doing online research. So we find ourselves sort of talking about DH research almost always something to do with technology and online. But even in online research, there are this host of this quite nuanced forms of online research that are currently happening, and each one is very different from the other. For example, doing internet research, which is a notion related to both the researching of online communities to study internet users, as well as products of online culture or human-bot interactions, is perhaps different from digital research, which is a notion describing online community research with possible additional use of traditional research methods such as interviews and observations. So oftentimes what happens is, when we propose courses in methods, when we propose courses in and around methods and methodologies for digital humanities, we sort of, it would help us as educators, instructors, if we can understand these nuanced ways of doing research with technology, with engaging with the online, engaging with the digital. And so this is one way we can bring in a doing sort of digital humanities, a doing sort of methods in the DH course. Another way, and very, very important ingredient to talk about in doing digital humanities research, is to acquaint, to familiarize students with what is data. A very simple question such as this. What is the difference between data and information? And what are the various forms of data that the student can expect when dealing with questions around digital humanities? For example, what is structured data? What is unstructured data? What is metadata? And of course, the Pandora's box of big data, for example, open data, linked data, legacy data, that it's just not the size, the volume that makes big data big. It's also the complexity. It's also the linked nature, the networked nature of big data that actually speaks volumes of big data. So at some point within the curriculum, we need to bring in this appreciation for the student to understand the nature of data itself. And currently, we are, in the paradigm, we are in the age of talking not just only one type of data, but bringing multiple types of data, natures of data together. For example, thick big data. So thick big data has a history in this qualitative, quantitative divide between data. And thick big data tries to address that divide and tries to overcome that sort of a divide. It sort of professes a sort of data analysis, or looking at data appreciation, which may start with something as very quantitative as big data, online survey questionnaires, leading to searching for regularities with the use of big data tools like AI, statistical analysis, network analysis, to going back to Rabin's question, Rabin's reflection, that once the computer has counted things, it doesn't mean we understand it. And so going to a more sort of an in-depth understanding of that through qualitative methods such as digital ethnography, narrative analysis, etc. So thick big data, or even an appreciation of the data for the student, a course around that would help the student to actually warm up for what lies ahead. So with this, I go to the second part of my talk, to look at, given these sort of theoretical premises, where is digital humanities in global and Indian classrooms? And I'm going to just show you this course registry, which I'm sure many of you know. This is the, just going to, is this visible to everyone? The Digital Humanities Course Registry.
Yes.
Yes. So this is a course registry that you can find online, which is it's a repository of digital humanities courses, whether it's a summer school or a master's program. As you can see from this list, we do have some mention of bachelor programs, and this is mostly, as you can see from the map, mostly in Europe, and some in North America, and practically they do not have any record of other parts of the world. But still, it is a very good indicator of what can qualify or what can suit the purpose of a digital humanities course. They do have PhD programs also listed here. So at your leisure, you're welcome to take a look at this list of courses and the type of courses that they offer, the list of programs here and the type of courses that they offer. It's quite a long list, and I'm going to just share this link in the chat box here, which I don't know where it is. I'm going to send it to Tonisha later on, and Tonisha, you can share it with the participants. Yes, okay. So I'm just going to go ahead with the talking about digital humanities courses in India. So if you look at on the national level, and if you look at this map that you're looking at on the slide, I know Shanmuga, you're here in the panel, and it's a pleasure to actually look at this map with you. That Nirmala Menon and Shanmuga, they actually proposed this map of digital humanities, doings of digital humanities in India. And if you look carefully at the map here, the blue dot, that is the second one in the legend, DH courses and programs, is probably the scantiest on the map. We do have DH centers, labs, research groups, Dharti inaugural participants, conferences, recent conferences, etc. But really, when we're talking about DH courses, DH programs nationally, we really are not yet there. But if you look at India has had a longer history of digital humanities, starting as early as 2010, with postgraduate diploma courses, bachelor and master level courses in diplomas. So Jadavpur University actually introduced, a postgraduate diploma in digital humanities. Presidency University, Srishti actually introduced a master's level course in a master level program in digital humanities. CDH had a program, and then you can see some of these early interventions with archiving through pat.ma and in indiacine.ma. Through time, what we see is that more and more a variety of institutes, variety of universities nationally have been offering courses in digital humanities. And I'm still not talking about institutional level programs. I'm talking about courses, single standalone courses. So we see courses being offered in IIT Delhi, IIT Indore. We offer here at Flame University, IIT Gandhinagar, Delhi University, Tejpur University, Center for Studies in Social Sciences, Kolkata, Aligarh Muslim University, Christ University of Assam has recently launched, a degree program in English with emphasis in digital humanities. So we do see that, more and more places are offering standalone courses in digital humanities. But really, if you look at an institutional level master's and doctoral programs with well panned out sort of courses across semesters, etc. So IIT Jodhpur, to my understanding, has been one of the first in India to propose an MSc program in digital humanities, and I was very, very fortunate to actually chair that committee. I know, Paricha, you're here, and it was a pleasure. So Paricha was also part of this venture. And I'm going to walk you through the conceptualization of this degree program at IIT Jodhpur, the MSCDH program, in a minute. But just to give you an overview, so Flame University proposes digital humanities as a cluster, as a research cluster. So we have PhD program in digital humanities. We offer UG courses, and we offer a PhD program in digital humanities. IIT Indore with its newly established Center for Digital Humanities would soon be proposing degree programs in digital humanities, and Savitribai Phule Pune University is going to launch the Masters in Digital Humanities soon. So you still see, and there are at least 3 or 4 universities across the country who are going to come up with an established institute level master's and doctoral degree programs in digital humanities very soon. So it's in the making. And so, as we are building towards, as we are institutionalizing this sort of, curriculum building and sort of building a story for Indian digital humanities through curriculum building, it is really interesting to actually, come back to this maybe 5 years later to actually see, what is the road that we are carving out for ourselves through this. So very briefly, walking you through positioning the DH curricula, the MSc and PhD program in digital humanities at IIT Jodhpur. So this conceptualization started as early as 2019 with conceptualizing, the platform, the interdisciplinary research platform of digital humanities, IDRP, as you currently know. And we actually, so I was then at IIT Jodhpur, and we actually wrote up a proposal for launching IDRP DH, presented in the boardroom, and it got approved. So the conversation around positioning IDRP DH and a DH curriculum actually went back and forth, in this train of thought that we have this various disciplinary areas, starting with intradisciplinary, to cross-disciplinary, to multidisciplinary, to interdisciplinary, and to transdisciplinary. And where are we actually locating our conceptualization of digital humanities in the form of a curriculum, in the form of proposing a set of courses and offering students? Because that sort of positioning of a DH curriculum will speak volumes about what would be your intake of students. What is the academic background of students that you're looking for, who will eventually come into this program and do this degree program and sort of graduate out. So that conversation starts at a very, very early level. It took us 1.5 years to actually conceptualize the entire curriculum, get it approved, and get it started in the middle of peak pandemic in 2020. From my understanding, the MSc-DH program at IIT Jodhpur is positioned somewhere between 3 and 4, somewhere between multidisciplinary areas where people from different disciplines work together, each drawing on their own disciplinary knowledge, to a more interdisciplinary sort of an inquiry where scholars integrate knowledge and methods from different disciplines, and they use a real synthesis of approaches. At least that has been a goal, in proposing and establishing that MSc-DH curriculum at Jodhpur. So we also sort of, brought up a conceptual journey of digital humanities in our sort of exercise of proposing the set of courses that you currently see as part of the MSc-DH program at IIT Jodhpur. So you see, these questions that we are looking at come from society, come from culture, come from identity. And then we adopt research tools and methods such as archiving through multimedia, through online database, visualize them as image-based through mind mapping, infographics, or recreate them through AR, VR, mixed reality. And of course, collaboration in the entire venture, played a huge role. And it's not just collaboration between people and people, but also collaboration between web and people. So as you may know, the various versions of web, various versions of web 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, etc., sort of go hand in hand with how we also understand DH version 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0 possibly is, somewhere we are currently in. And so this collaboration between not just people, not just between subject matter experts and non-experts, but also between people and and the web. How is this connect established through a curriculum? So this has been an overall journey of proposing the MSc-DH program. There were several central questions that we debated on, that we addressed, that we discussed. The first is to explore contested definitions of the digital humanities, because a single definition does not exist. And particularly in the Indian context, where we are still building, in the stage of building digital humanities, we are still building, looking for a definition. And then also beginning to consider why the digital humanities matter beyond the academic field itself, because not many or most of the students who are going to finish the degree program in digital humanities may not pursue a career in academic lines. So how is the skill set that you are providing to the students through this curriculum translatable, transferable skills, so as to they can find themselves employable in sectors like GLAM, galleries, libraries, archives, and museums, and also sectors like the AVGC, animation, visual effects, gaming, and comic. And as you may know, the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting actually declared a sum of some 3,000 crores towards developing an AVGC sector in India. And so, the goal of the degree program has to be predefined, has to be, sort of discussed, debated before you even start the process of, who are you going to take in as students in the program, and then what is the, what lies ahead for the student once they have traveled through the degree program. And of course, throughout the course, through various courses throughout the program, we have sort of kept ample platforms so that, the students are exposed to this idea of challenging the inherited separation between humanities and technology, that most of it, if not all, is really an assumed sort of a separation, that east is east, west is west, etc. And then, so if you are a scholar of humanities, you can never come to technology, and vice versa. So sort of giving the platform to the students, giving through courses, so that they can debate and sort of nourish and learn from each other's experiences, learn from each other's viewpoints about this assumption of separation between humanities and technology. So again, if I remember correctly, and Paricha, if you're here, please correct me if I'm wrong. This is the, the word cloud that you see on the left of the screen is the word cloud of students' academic background when they applied to the program of MSc Digital Humanities in their first year. So this was 2020, July 2020. And as you can see, applications were accepted from humanities, social science, and basic science students, coming from those sort of backgrounds. So we had, applications in physics, applications from students with backgrounds in physics, political science, botany, of course, in humanities, social science, and mathematics also. So the discussions were mostly around, and this was at the, curriculum building stage, which lasted for over a year through countless workshops and brainstorming sessions and panels of experts who contributed towards building this curriculum, and experts who actually looked at the finished curriculum. So these experts would be people from Ministry of Culture, people from IITs, people from ISI, people from Central Universities. So there were an expansive panel of experts who actually contributed towards building this curriculum. So the discussions were mostly about, if you are bringing in students from different academic backgrounds who would be interested to learn about digital humanities, and I quote one of the experts saying, non-exclusive is, how do you bring them to a level platform which is common for all by the end of the first year? So that is where you start designing your core courses, which is your first year of coursework. And here I'm talking about a 2-year regular PG program in digital humanities in India. Is the first year is your core courses, which can speak to concepts of foundations, speak to concepts of methods, and speak to concepts of conceptual building courses. And so by the end of the first year, the students should be coming to this level platform, so as from the second year, they can choose to specialize in any one of the verticals that the curriculum would have. And at the time of proposing, I think there were 6 or 7 such verticals that were proposed. So, so this is not an easy task for the student or for the instructor. And this has gone, back and forth, several iterations and several feedback and, vetting of experts to arrive at, a curriculum that you see in front of you today. Is that this set of courses that have been conceptualized as foundational, set of courses that have been conceptualized as methodological, and a set of courses that have been sort of conceptualized as concept building. So foundations of digital humanities, archiving and databases, foundations in IPR, principles of digital economics, data structures, algorithms would comprise the foundational set of courses. methods and methodologies in digital humanities, programming techniques, machine learning for digital humanities. So these courses were really tailor-made to suit the curriculum. So for example, machine learning for digital humanities is tailored not for a student coming with a sort of a BE or a B Tech sort of a background, but for a student who's coming with a humanities sort of an understanding, but for a student who's coming with a social science or even a basic science sort of a grounding. Social media application development was a hands-on course, and concept building courses related to place and identity in the digital age. So that course sort of, catered to many of the things that I was talking about today earlier on in my presentation. Seminar in digital humanities was given a platform to the students, where they can bring in their own, selection of topics and have a discussion with instructors. Civilizations, cultures, and technologies sort of spoke to this historical development of civilization and technologies together, and the symbiotic relationship that they have with each other, and perspectives in language and literary studies was also, a core concept building course. But behind the scene for each of these courses were hours and hours of brainstorming and discussions and debates and expert feedback, till the time you actually see it as part of the curriculum. So given this, I would now really like to make it a little more interactive, and just learn from you also. If you can go to this website, slido.com, and feed in this code. You would find, one second, I'm just going to, yes. So if you can just go to this slido.com and feed in, you don't have to log in with your email ID or anything. You just have to feed in this code 714747. You will, I have a set of 3 questions for you, which you will see in turn. So currently you should be able to see only one of these questions. Can somebody confirm if they are able to log into Slido and see the first question?
Yes, I can.
Great. So the first question, asks, imagine the most important theoretical premise that you would introduce to the students in their first semester of the DH program that you are currently thinking of. What would that be? Your response can be a word, a phrase, or a name of a course. Wonderful ideas that are percolating. I'm just looking at what is coming in. As you type in, I'm going to share my screen and show you what you are actually typing in. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can.
So as you can see, these are like wonderful reflections on imagining the most important theoretical premise that you would introduce to the students in their first semester of the DH program. And the size of the words or the phrases that you see depend on how many people are saying the same thing here. And you can see for yourself what is coming out of this. Okay, I'm going to take a quick screenshot of this once everyone has fed in their option. So distant reading, concept of culture, everyday digital practices, artificial intelligence, all are great areas of inquiry for to be introduced to the students in their first semester. All right, so I've taken a screenshot of this. I'm going to stop this poll and open for you the next question. I'm going to deactivate this poll and open for you the next question. Are you able to see the next question?
Yes, we can.
What is that one course that you would recommend students must credit as part of the DH program during any point of the program? So just to explain that, what is this absolutely core element that you see that a student of a digital humanities program must learn about? That is no way the student can graduate without learning about that. So that is, what is that one course that you would recommend students must credit as part of the program? So we have AI and its applicability, we have digital cultures, we have foundations of DH, we have software applications, sociology of technology, digital spaces, GLAM, digital cultures have taken over AI. Okay. I'm going to take a screenshot here again and then move on to the last question of this brainstorming. Stop this. And this is the last question. So according to you, what is that one course that strikes a balance between the digital and the humanities for the students in this hypothetical DH program? Let me share this. Culture and media studies, digital culture archiving, ethics of AI, culture and digital humanities, GLAM, text to teach, text to tech. Okay. Take this. Where your type. Wonderful. So I'm going to stop this. And thank you for participating for the brainstorm. I'm going to go back to my slides just to show you what you have come up with. So this is you speaking now. That what we imagine here, the most important theoretical premise that we would like to give to students is distant reading. And I can assume sort of what sort of a positioning of a DH curriculum would be to actually make sure that this is a theoretical premise that students must be exposed to. The most important theoretical premise, those who say artificial intelligence can actually, be from multiple vantage points, can be from, hosted in departments of humanities, hosted in departments of computer science, etc. Again, how you build a curriculum around it would be different. Concept of culture, everyday digital practices. So you can see for yourself, some of the theoretical premises that we find important for students to learn about, as they pick up the pebbles towards finishing a degree in digital humanities. The second question that you answered is, what is that one course that you would recommend students must credit as part of the DH program? Again, AI, digital cultures, history of media, foundations of DH are some of the sort of emerging broad ideas that you think must be credited by students at some point during the program. And finally, what is that one course that strikes a balance between digital and the humanities according to you? Ethics of AI, digital culture archiving, culture and media studies, cultural and digital humanities, text to tech, GLAM. All right. So thank you for participating in this, and I hope you can sort of, you know, get the idea. You have definitely started the process of conceptualizing what digital humanities mean to you, and how you would like to position yourself as an educator, as an instructor of a digital humanities course, or as part of a digital humanities program that you are currently thinking of. So I just want to quickly close off my presentation and leave the floor open for question and answers. And discussions, is that what we have been talking about here really is a paradigm in the making. And we have taken up some of these epistemological questions, not surprisingly being influenced by their ontologies. Now, ontology, how we understand in computer science versus how we understand in social science versus how we understand in humanities, are very, very different ideas. But we all agree on the part that it's linked, it's coded, it's tiered, it's a hierarchy. And these epistemological foundations lead to certain sort of methodologies that influence how we choose to do what we do. So this is far from discrete. This is far from being compartmentalized. One informs the other, and what matters is where you are or how you would like to position yourself vis-a-vis conceptualizing a digital humanities program that you are thinking of. So with this, I thank you very much for listening to me, for participating in this so actively, and the floor is open for any questions, answer, discussions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Chaudhuri. It was again very, very enlightening, very clear, I must say. There was a lot of clarity in the way that you presented your position on how DH should be used in the teaching and learning process, or rather, we can incorporate DH in, or rather, we can teach DH in the simplest terminology. That is, often the question that arises in the minds of people like us, who are not, technologically equipped or in a position to experiment, that when we are engaging ourselves with something like that of the discipline of DH, as to how to bring the digital into my domain of knowledge, and whether I have the tools and the ability to do that, because until and unless I make the connection, I won't be able to translate it to my students. I think you established that relationship very well. I can say from my experience as a student of history that when I engage with archives as my source of research, there are so many questions that I need to first answer before I really get to the point where I can use archives as my primary source, or even as data. And you have raised those questions in this case as well. And to make students aware of how to go about it is definitely a part of our job. And yes, true. I mean, looking at your presentation, I think we still have a long way to go in really establishing a proper format or a structure to bring DH into our classrooms. But another thing that really is something that we all, I think, know and realize, but something that gets established again through your presentation, is how multidisciplinary it is, and how it DH allows people from different domains of knowledge to come and interact on a common platform, and that in itself, I think, is quite brilliant, and is the way forward. I believe, one of the things that always that in fact initially attracted me to DH and still does. So. Thank you, Dr. Chaudhuri, once again. And are you still with us, right? I can't see you. Can you have
Yes,
your?
yes, I'm very much here, and thank you for summing up so beautifully. I'm happy to learn that it was of some use, and it was not completely disconnected.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely not. I will go to question and answer now, and you have a number of very positive comments. People have been appreciating your lecture and presentation, as we have been you have been delivering it. But there is a couple of questions that I would like to turn your attention to. One is by Bulo Kanu. I hope I've got the name right. And the question is, in today's digital world, within the humanities, what is not DH? And within bracket, it is written as an academic discipline. And a question is kind of, I think, as a clarification added to it, is there anything that is not DH?
Should I take up the question?
Yeah. What would you prefer?
Yeah, sure. I'll just go ahead with the question, because
Yes.
this is something I should have actually started my presentation with. Thank you for the question, because it needs to be clarified. What digital humanities and what is our vantage point of looking at DH. So for me and colleagues, who have identified digital humanities as a multidisciplinary or an interdisciplinary area, the question that you're asking, the research question that you're asking, is that research question enabled because of the presence of technology? In other words, would you still be asking the same question if technology did not exist? So that is one way of looking at whether your research question is digital humanities oriented or not. So what is the relationship of the question? Is the question enabled by the technology that is present? And very, very closely to that is that, can you answer this question through the use of technology only? Or is technology the only lens you can adopt to actually answer this question? So these two relationships between the research question and technology, I feel, and this is my working principle, is to identify if something is DH or not. I don't know if I answered that question, but
Yes. I think in my mind you did. I hope it was a good answer for the person who asked the question. Uh, if a comment in the chat box would be most welcome, of course, in that regard. I'm moving on to the next question. This is by Madhurima Mukhopadhyay, and she's writing, since in our classrooms in Amity University, where I teach, irrespective of discipline, we are using digital tools such as Kahoot, Answer Garden to interact with students. Is there any way, especially in disciplines such as literary studies, that we could also introduce the students to methodologies of digital humanities? This is one question. Should I continue with the next one, or would you take this one now? And
so if I understand the question correctly, so in literary cultural studies, did you say?
Literary studies, is there any way, especially in disciplines such as literary studies, she says, that we could also introduce the students to methodologies of digital humanities?
Yes. Is there a question related to that?
Yes. At the PhD level 2, the recently introduced research publication ethics course by UGC is orienting students across disciplines to digital practices in terms of journal search and plagiarism check. So would it be right to say that the government is also consciously trying to make people acquainted with digital methods in research?
Okay. So I'll take up the first question first, about talking about using digital tools or introducing methods in digital humanities for students in literary studies. And of course, from where I see, yes, you can. And you can adopt, certain tools that are specific to, sort of analyzing large corpus of text data, for example. So there are open source software like Buoyant tools, which actually analyzes huge volumes of text data. There are subscription-based tools that you can use like MaxQDA, like NVigo. So you can actually tailor-make the methods course, the methods in DH course, to suit the needs of your students in literary studies. But yes, it's definitely doable. And the second question is the government investing in digital practices of, yes? Sorry, I forgot the second question exactly.
Yes, I'll repeat it for you. At the PhD level 2, she's talking about the research publication ethics course, which has been introduced by the UGC. And so she's asking, would it be right to say that the government is also consciously trying to make people acquainted with digital methods in research?
I think so. I mean, if you look at, I spoke about the ABGC sector. So there is a lot of government funding, a lot of government support in these areas. So I think, yeah, to, long story short, yes.
Okay. I'm audible, right? Okay. There is a very specific question asked by Shushama Supa, and she asks, what is digital economics and computational economics?
What is the difference between computational economics?
No. She just asks, what is digital economics and computational economics?
Yeah, okay. So I'm not an economist, so I won't be able to give you the exact answer, but from where I see is for computational economics, it's more about the methods that you are talking about, the tools that you adopt to compute certain problems. For digital economics, I think you also bring in an added layer of complexity of not just computing what you are trying to solve, but also going a step ahead, and it brings with it all the critical lenses that we just talked about. So this is my understanding of the tool.
Right. There is another question from Prakruti Bhatt. How can a hypothetical course on DH critique the politics of representation, knowledge dissemination, etc., embedded in the interaction with the digital medium? Can you suggest some theories, concepts which can be incorporated for the same, if there are any?
So this would be a very tailor-made BH curriculum to suit the purpose of this, and this is not at all my area of inquiry. So, but definitely from the very resonance of the context, I think this would be very, very contextual.
All right. This is a question, probably the last one also, from Aruti Banerjee. She asks, how can students know whether they have the ability to be in a DH course? How can we as teachers guide students as to whether they should do DH?
Yes. So this is a question. Thank you for this question, because this question, we were, when MSCDH was launched and the application deadlines were announced, we were plagued with this question. And so what helped was to do an open house, or a Facebook Live or open house online, because I'm talking about peak COVID 2020 summers, where you publicly, invite interested candidates to actually join the session, and you make a very sort of simple presentation of what the program offers. So what are the goals of the program? What are some of the courses that you are, sort of providing for the students, and what the students can do with a degree in digital humanities based on the course outline. So the students can see for themselves if A, they would be interested for the program, and B, if it would help them post masters. So that is something that helped, because I used to get emails all the time. I'm from XYZ background. Can I do a degree in digital humanities? Or do I need to learn Python in order to graduate with a degree in digital humanities? And I would revert saying that you would need to learn Python if you need to learn it, right? It's not a you have to do something to finish DH. So presentation about what the larger program is helps, advertising about the program, and this one-on-one sessions before a candidate applies went a long way.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself again. Okay. There is a question from Radhika Ramesh, and she asks, there is analytics of finance, HR, etc., and then there is digital in marketing, banking, etc. Would these be fit to be studied in a management school?
If you can see it fitting, yes. Yeah, I mean, because if you recall the map of digital humanities by Alan Liu that I spoke about, communication was a major area that he pointed out, and which feeds into the idea of digital humanities on that map. So I don't see a complete detachment of digital humanities from a management school at all. You just have to tailor make the program to suit the best fit needs.
I think that's where the teaching learning comes in. We come in, I guess. Um, there is a question in the chat box, even though we categorically said we won't take questions from the chat. But this is a very interesting question, I believe, that I would like to ask. Gitanjali Roy has asked this question. What are the theoretical stands that should be taught to students who would be offered an introductory course on DH?
Okay. So again, one idea to answer that is, where is this program being housed? Which department is this program being housed? So given the disciplinary orientation of the program, you would like to bring in some of the classical and contemporary premises in terms of theoretical and praxis to feed in this course. So this is a course, Foundations of Introduction to DH or Foundations of DH, for the first semester in Digital MSc DH at IIT Jodhpur. And because this program was conceptualized not being housed in a particular department, but being housed in an interdisciplinary platform, the way we conceptualized the theoretical premises was actually drawn from, if I recall, 7 different disciplinary areas, and which reflected the faculty pool, which actually contributed towards building the curriculum. So, again, this is a question that you need to ask yourself. Again, MA in DH or MSc in DH, or however you want to call it, position it, house it, because it is a vital question. Where would you house a program? And that is, an agenda that you have to clarify at the very onset, because that will feed into the nature of the curriculum. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. There is another question here, which also I find very interesting. This is from Dr. Parvanshi Sharma, and she asks, what does digital literature include? The digital tools to access literature, or digital tools, applications to analyze print literature, or the uploading of print literature on digital platforms, or the production of literature on digital platforms? I think the question is, what does digital literature include?
To my understanding, and I'm not coming from a very literature background, I would say all of the above. But again, I'm not sure.
Okay, I don't see any more questions, neither in the chat box nor in the Google form that we floated with a lot of positive comments for you, Mayurakshi, so you can take that back maybe. And they have really enjoyed your session from the comments that we have been having. Um, Let me just check whether we have any fresh question. Yes, there is a question, and since we have time, I might as well ask it. Rakhi Lalwani asks, how would evaluation for DH projects work as part of a course? It's a very pertinent question. As each project would require different criteria, and how would that work out in systems that somewhere tend to be static?
Okay, so let me recall. So a bulk of the evaluations for the second year courses actually were project related. That the students would have to do something hands-on. And this was, after they had chosen a vertical, whether they would like to specialize in digital archives or digital marketing or digital cultures or so on and so forth. So many of the evaluation components in the second year were very project-based. The first year were very based on the type of courses. For example, methods and methodologies had an evaluation component of using these digital tools to actually analyze large bodies of, so they would either do discourse analysis or they would do computational analysis. So it would, it would be speaking to the nature of the course that you would design. So I had one course where I actually, and this was a PhD level course, where I actually, as an assignment, evaluation component, I had asked them to design a DH course on a particular area. So, once you design a course, you would be able to see the students' thinking path of, from stage to stage. So you can think of, various forms of, and now, in an era of ChatGPT, it's a nightmare, to actually think of, evaluation types of evaluation. So, and we just have to constantly play around it.
Maybe?
Am I connected or?
You're connected. We can hear you, Mayurakshi.
Okay.
Srimati, are you there?
I think she dropped off. I think. No, I can see her, but I think it's network. Yes, she's there.
He has given a number of answers which may be quite relevant for you. Let me just check whether we have anything else. Okay. Great session is one comment. Yes, we have. Again, this is a literature question, but I still ask. This is again from Bulokano. And the question is, literature produced by AI or some other apps? I think it's a reference to your last comment. Be included in DH.
I mean, depends on what purpose you're using it for.
Yes, I believe so. Okay. I think that's about it. I think that's it. Okay, that is how far we are getting the questions from. The feedback link has also been shared. Participants, please check the chat box. And I think we are almost at the end of today's session. Tonisha?
Mayurakshi, thank you so much for that session. It's very interesting to hear the story of the syllabus that got designed, because of course we are now playing with or working with what you guys produced. So it was really
there were 3 of us in the boardroom when we actually presented that proposal for the IDRP, not even the syllabus, not even the curriculum. So, just 3 of us in the boardroom presenting, IDRPDH should exist in an institute of technology.
Yes, and it is very good because we keep getting these repeated questions about, is DH a real discipline? And I think in the previous session, somebody had asked this in a very pointed way. So you're only using digital tools, if you remember. And I had at that moment responded by saying that yes, it is extremely interdisciplinary, but there is also a disciplinarity to it. And I think Mayurakshi just discussed that beautifully with all of us and brought the question of which student group are we talking about when we are talking about what to teach in DH very crucially. Thank you so much for that. Really. It's been such an amazing session.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's like sort of a homecoming, talking about this, I'm just living through this whole experience of sometimes pleasant, sometimes nightmarish sort of, experience. But it's such a pleasure to be back talking about something my ex-colleagues and me had created. I don't know if Porichoy is in the room. I think he is.
I'm here. I joined using the coordinated GH ID.
Yeah. So yeah, Porichoy is here. I mean, he can tell you all the inside stories. But it was such a pleasure to actually speak to, on this topic, because this is something that India is currently going through, and currently, I can see, at least I am part of at least 4 or 5 degree programs that are currently in the making, in the oven, on digital humanities. So in 5 years' time, we should be able to see a pattern. We should be able to see a trend. And we are all looking forward to that.
Have any other questions from the participants? We'll share the feedback link with you again separately in the email if that's not working, Dr. Bhan. Right now we are seeing such a huge furor about ChatGPT and AI because, of course, we are. And there is either a very techno-positivist stance that says, oh, culture just became redundant, instead of looking at it as a very interesting exercise within culture, or a very techno-negativist stance of this is the end of all creativity. And I can see across the kind of feedback or questions that we have been getting that this is something that this group is concerned about. What does it mean to have ChatGPT, or how do you make sense of the existence of artificial intelligence right now as it is being publicly discussed? So would you like to comment on that in any way? Because it has been a recurring theme. So
yeah. And, every day we have to, rethink particularly our evaluations, our assessments, and AI assist. I mean, ChatGPT is going to be here. AI assisted, platforms are going to be here. I think what we need to communicate to students, using any AI assisted platform software, is that in the long run, who is going to win is for them to decide. And this is a call that they should take for themselves now. So it's not a very, they should look at the bigger picture, the longer run for themselves, in order to actually, battle with that, rather than educators battling with it. And I'm just going to flip it on the student side.
Teaching English, especially online, has been, of course, a nightmare through the pandemic and after it because of the immediate instinct for cheating that goes with it, which defeats the point of any exercise. So yes, I agree. Absolutely. Questions, other questions or concerns? We have some more time.
Yes, there is another. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, I had a digital malfunction. I had to leave and come back. Okay, there is a question from our chair, Mona Lisa. She wasn't able to chair, but she was there as a participant, and she does have a question, Mona Lisa Basu. And she asks, do you mean that digital course will change as per the core of humanities?
Can you repeat that question? I just want to make sure.
Yes, I will. do you mean that digital course will change as per the core of humanities?
Okay. So this, if I understand the question correctly, so this takes me back to one of the summer workshops in digital humanities that I attended online with Oxford. And one of the instructors there saying that in 10 years down the line, you would not be really saying you are a digital humanities scholar because it's assumed you are a D8 scholar. So in 10 years' time, humanities would eventually become synonymous to digital humanities. I don't know if I answered that question correctly, but this is what I can think of.
Yes, thank you, Mayurakshi. I'll just check again whether anybody else has any more questions. Okay, nothing on in the form as of now. Except there's a comment you might be interested in. This is from Garima Maheshwari. Great session. My takeaway: it is particularly interesting to tailor DH to students pursuing political science. Okay, if we don't have questions anymore, then we can kind of bring today's session to an end. Tonisha?
Yes, yes. Sorry,
Yes.
I'm down with the fever, so
Yes,
thank you.
sorry, but you're my go-to person here, so I keep going back to you.
There is another question in some other question in the chat.
Yes, yes. I think Bulo
Yes, I
has.
can see. Bulo again has a question. It does look like the bulk of work in DH research is done by the various softwares or programs that map out those graphs and produces data on the frequency of occurrence of terms. Is that the case?
The bulk of work in DH research is done by the various software programs that map out those graphs. So, in other words, are you asking the use of digital tools is emphasized more? No, that's okay. So is it that what you're asking is the use of digital tools, programs to analyze or to produce graphs is most of what people do as DH, right? I think so. So again, it depends who is doing the DH research. So I would imagine if somebody from a computer science background is looking at a question of digital humanities, would be able to produce, graphs. And this is, I've worked with computer scientists across departments and institutions, and this is my experience, is that, would be great at producing graphs and using programs, etc. But really, when it comes to interpreting, when it comes to analyzing, you would need some sort of an interdisciplinary dialogue, some sort of a additional disciplinary orientation to step in to make meaning of those graphs or visualizations produced programmatically. So it is not really true that most of what DH work is being produced is just that, but that is a significant part of what is being produced because there is a key component of interpretation and inferences attached to it. And for that, you would need an interdisciplinary dialogue.
Okay, I think you are, yeah. Okay, I think that will satisfy Pooja. Okay, so thank you so much, Dr. Chaudhuri, once again. And you have, again helped us to, take what we plan to do in this FDP, that is, introduce DH as a possibility in our classrooms and even in our research. And this was a very important step for us because we are faculty here. We are, or majority of us are faculty here who are doing the program. So how we can connect our domain of knowledge and can carry DH along with it and can translate it somehow in a language that can be understandable to UG level or even PG level students was a challenge that had kind of perplexed us for a long time. So, and I think you not only have answered a few questions there, but you've also raised a few questions for us to also ponder upon and maybe figure out answers on our own because we all differ in our domains of knowledge. And I think again the concept of multidisciplinary kind of comes in into the context. I think DH needs to be according to what we intend it to be, if I'm not very wrong in saying that, and marry that with what you want to get across, and kind of also associate it with the core of your domain knowledge. I think that's where the challenge lies as teachers, and but that I think it is also quite an appealing challenge, an attractive challenge to go through how we can really make the association and make it work in the most worthwhile of manner. So it has been again a very very enlightening session, I would say, where we got to learn further as to how we can explore the discipline of DH, and this time within the classroom in a curriculum. And this has only, I think, increased our interest more, where we will be looking forward to the next two sessions that we have left with. So thank you once again, Dr. Chaudhuri, for joining us and giving us your time and uh, answering all the questions that we've had. Thank you so much. And Tanisha, if we can bring this to an end.
Absolutely. We will share the forms, and it has just been so amazing to be in a virtual room with all the people who are clearly starting and sharing this conversation a lot before us. Like, in a lot of ways, as I said, the syllabus or the course structures that we are now working with are things that Mayurakshi and Chiranjoyada and Purishada, these people have literally prepared from scratch. So it's wonderful to also have a session in that way to talk about what does it mean to teach DH in its particular context. Thank you so much for joining us, Mayurakshi.
Thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this FDP. It was such a pleasure. Thank you, and I look forward to meeting you all sometime soon.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Everyone who's attended this session on the live stream as well as here in this virtual room, as you know, the Google form is open for questions. We will try to respond to them at our earliest convenience because, again, the numbers are staggering. We are requested to please submit the feedback and the short exercise that we circulate because, as I said, remember how we go through the homework. We know whoever has put in a period and submitted. So you're requested to please submit full responses to the exercises. That's how the certification will also get affected a lot. We will meet again next Saturday at 5 o'clock with Shanmuga Priya to talk about data mining and literary studies, which I think a lot of questions raised in this session would be really benefited by how she is going to look at it. So we'll take it up next Saturday. Thank you. I apologize. I'm a little under the weather. So if you can hear me, hopefully.
Yes,
Because
you're very much audible, and thank you, Tonisha, once again for all the effort that you have put into this. Thank you, Dr. Chaudhuri, for your time and the wonderful delivery. And I think we are ready to close today's session and looking forward to the next, of course.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Good evening.